We will give this maybe 2 to 5 more minutes, and then I will be right back with you. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we are back. Each time, if one of you all has to step away, we have to pause the meeting. So we will get started.
Nicole, I apologize for that. I had a candidate filing for office and I had some questions I had to take care of. So hopefully that won't happen again. I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay. We did roll call and now we're back. We have 10 local records program grant applications were received for fiscal year 22 cycle 2. Total funds requested are $447,720.05. One application was identified as ineligible to move forward in the grant process to the local records grant review committee, which is you all. The applicant is not the Knott County clerk. The Knott County application did not include 3 bids as required per page 6 of the local records grant guidelines. We have 9 applications to review and score. Thank you for scoring your applications in advance. If you did, if not, that's quite fine. After each presentation and branch recommendation, we will record your individual scores and compile them. After scoring, we will take about a 10-minute break. We have a spreadsheet we will put them in. It'll automatically calculate the averages and the ranks, and we will let you know what they are. Applications will be ranked from the highest score to the lowest score. We will start with the end. Do you have any questions before we begin? If not, we will begin with the Anderson County Fiscal Court, and Elizabeth Williams will present this application to you.
Good morning. The Anderson County Fiscal Court requested $7,000 for codification. They are requesting grant funds to codify approximately 26 ordinances containing 121 pages. They have been previously awarded a codification grant to codify previous ordinances. This one is for new ordinances. They're requesting the codification of ordinances number 2015-11 through 2020-11. And the local records branch recommends full funding of this proposed project for a total of $7,000.
Does anyone have any questions for Beth regarding the Anderson County Fiscal Court codification application? Questions regarding the records? Since there are none, we will take your scores at this point.
Nicole,
Sure.
can I ask one question about the score
Sure.
sheet? The last line, there's soundness of proposed methods,
Mhm.
which indicates 2.5 points for yes and 0 points for no. Is that on each of the last two lines, 2.5?
Let me find. That would be the one thing that I didn't bring in. Do you have a rubric with you? You don't. Give me just a second. That's the one thing that I didn't bring in here. Okay. So are you saying is it supposed to be 2.5 or 3?
No, I'm saying, is it 2.5 for the applicant contributed, consulted with the regional administrator?
Yes, it's 2.5.
And also 2.5 for the applicant displayed methods of handling records to conform to generally accepted practices.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Your scores. So I will start with whoever's first. Or can I have a motion to recommend funding for the Anderson County Fiscal Court at $7,000 South Central Region? Is there a motion to recommend funding?
I'll make that motion.
And a
And
second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and could we have your scores? And I will start with Mr. Lurson. I believe I said that correctly. As in person.
Excellent.
Thank you. Very good.
Score 25.
Score 25. Mhm. And Ms. Schumacher,
There, 23.
thank you.
Well,
Ms. Thomas,
16 and a half.
thank you. Ms. Patterson. And if you don't have a score, it's quite fine. You don't, it's quite fine.
Yeah, I don't have the scores.
It's quite fine. And Mr. Wayne,
21.
21. Thank you. And next, we will move on to the Fulton County Clerk, and that will be Rebecca Hallmeyer.
Good morning. I'm Becca Holtmeyer. I'm the West Regional Administrator. I'm gonna do Fulton County here. I had to switch from my headphones to the speaker, so can you guys all hear me still? Perfect. So the Fulton County Clerk, they're requesting funds from the Local Records Grant Program to scan and digitize, electronically index and upload deed books and encumbrance books, both of those with date ranges between 1845 and 1998. The clerk's office is also requesting funding to create microfilm for permanent records, including deed books, mortgage books, marriage books, will books, and encumbrance books with date ranges between 1953 and 2021. The last request is to purchase a scanner, associated computer, and external hard drive. So the Fulton County Clerk's Office has received 10 grant awards in the past to security microfilm, historical, and permanent public records, to purchase storage equipment, including roller shelving and plaque cabinets, for records preservation tasks, including canvas covers and I knew I was going to get stuck on that word, deacidification, and to purchase an electronic imaging and indexing system, and then also a subsequent upgrade. Their most recent grant was 2015 for preservation. So currently the clerk has been working to identify gaps in their security microfilming. They're working to determine some preservation needs and to provide some much needed public access to records in this busy office. They are a small county and an office, but the records room does see a large number of customers each day. And the clerk has been very proactive in determining records management needs. They continue to and have already scanned and indexed permanent records as time permits by their staff. Currently, they have completed the marriage license books in the office. So I'm not going to read through all of the exact numbers of the books that are requested. So again, they're looking to scan and digitize, lost my place again, upload, security microfilm, and equipment. So the last two sections, the security microfilm and equipment, the local records branch recommends denial of those portions because of vendor bidding. In section 4, there was no site visit date, microfilm roll counts. And then in section 5, the records were not specified. And then there was some other vendor misses there. The local records branch does recommend full funding of sections 1, 2, and 3, the digitizing, the indexing, and the uploading of those records. So the total funds recommended for denial is $69,980.20. And then the total recommended funding is $71,214.80. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
I have a question. Good morning. So on section 5, where the funding for the equipment was rejected, is that because DRMS was the only bidder and they did not provide the site visit date on their bid?
Yes, it looks that way on my list. I have that. So section 5, one vendor did not bid. So yes, there was not the correct number of bids total. And then no site visit date.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
When situations like this occur, then, I mean, you ask them to resubmit? Is that the process?
Yeah, for the next cycle, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, I go back to the clerk once once the awards are made and discuss with them what their next steps are. And I would definitely recommend that they reapply for this.
Any additional questions? Thought I saw a hand raised. Oh, yes, Ms. Thomas.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First, when I sent in my score sheet, the number I used as far as the points for this grant or for any of the grants, do I need to stick to that numbers that when I report them to you in this meeting?
You can change them. You can change them if you like.
Because some of the information from the presenters has given me more information. So
Sure.
and then second, my background is in the archives as well as records management, but is digitization with no mention of how they're going to preserve those digital images or make those, long-term preservation issues? Would that be something I should or should not take into account?
Becca, you want to take this one?
I can, yes, yes, you can take it, into account if you'd like. For this one specifically, I did fail to mention that some of the digital records, they have the ones that they're looking to digitize and upload, those do have microfilm components to them already, but the microfilm was created long enough ago that no digital images were created at that time for them. So there is the preservation aspect to this specific project. But it's definitely, I definitely encourage you to look at all of those things if those stick out to you for projects.
And
And that's my fault. I'm sorry. I should definitely have mentioned that there already are microfilm for those records.
I really meant the digital preservation of the digital images that they'll create. But
Okay.
so then last question is for this particular grant application, is my understanding correct that they're digitizing records they already have on microfilm? What is the reasoning for, is there a reason for that? Like duplication of extra redundancy, I guess one could say.
And this is, from my knowledge,
Mhm.
what they're using this for. So the microfilm they're using is the preservation, and that is stored in the vault.
Okay.
The scanned images will be uploaded more for public access.
Okay.
And then also to, at the same time, to kind of lessen the use of those books in the office. It'll be easier to find for storage reasons. And then, yeah, so it's a number of reasons, but mostly for that public access.
Okay, so I think I've got the kind of general understanding of what you're saying is that basically the kind of routine thing to do for these kind of clerks or what have you is to microfilm the material for preservation, not for necessarily access. And then to
Correct.
digitize and scan things for access.
Yes, and the
Okay.
way that it's kind of a hard thing in some cases because now when we talk to any agency about microfilming and creating those digital images, a lot of times that can all be done at the same time now. So they're getting, you're doing it all at once. It's great. Where we come into kind of these situations are when they had microfilmed previously, which they, totally done what they're supposed to do for preservation, but there's just no digital images attached to those. And the same on the other end where they may have had digital images created, but the microfilm wasn't. So we're kind of filling in some gaps, trying to get all those pieces together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the questions.
If I can add just one thing, the state legislature is really making a push to all the county clerks to have all their records digitized going back 60 years. The Banking Association, especially with COVID, the way it happened, they want everyone to be able to do 60-year titles online without having to go to the office. So a lot of these are for that reason. They're really making a push, and it's probably going to be law shortly.
I believe Mr. Larson's screen froze. Yeah, he's back. Okay. To also piggyback on that, local records program grants are preservation grants. They are not access grants. Access is a benefit or a byproduct. Access is also necessary to provide, for the citizens and the public to come and have access to the records. So we do fund those types of projects. We do award those types of projects, digitization, those types of things. But local records program grants are a preservation grant. So there's something to keep in mind. And this is just a side note, if the legislature or the task force decides to make it law or required that 60 years of digital access, to change the grant from a preservation grant, you would have to change the KAR. So we have to be very careful, and it's a fine line. So when we award the grants, it's not that we're not going to award anything for access or digitization or scanning, but we have to make sure that we follow the KAR. And the first criteria is urgency of the record, meaning is the record in, danger of being further damaged if handled, oils from hands and those types of things. So just keep that in mind as well as you are scoring. And I know that some of you are representative of different agencies, and there are several county clerks on the review committee. And while you all have a certain mandate, this review body also has a certain mandate. It is to preserve local records. Preservation. That's the main focus. So now that that's been said.
Well, I'm sorry to follow up on that, Nicole. Then, most of the applicants we have stress the fact that they're making this is for this is for access.
Absolutely.
It appears to me. So I think we've got a conflict. I don't know if the clerks, are they are understanding of this or?
Well, this is just in general. It's not necessarily a conflict. Anybody can apply. Any local office can apply for whatever it is that they would like to apply for. I'm just putting this in your minds as the review body to keep in mind. And if you have any questions about what the local records program grants do, the background of it, all of that is either in the guidelines or it's in the KAR 725 KAR 1050 that defines the grant program. And it says in there, now digitization, of course, is in there, access is in there, but it is a preservation grant.
Okay.
That's all that I'm, want you to understand. It's a
Okay.
preservation grant. So there's no conflict, none of that at all.
Well, maybe I shouldn't have said conflict, but I guess a misunderstanding of how the money's supposed to be used, because it looks like the applications I read stressed the public access aspect.
Absolutely, and they should, and they're going to, because they're coming to apply from funds from their point of view and their perspective and what their needs are within the office, and we understand that. So we understand that what we're doing is educating and doing records management grants, and then talking about grants, putting guidance out there, and letting everyone know that it is a preservation grant. You can apply for whatever you want. It has to go in front of review, but the main criteria, first one is urgency. Urgency of the problem in the record. So we're looking at the preservation, we're looking at the records first, and then we go from there. So there's priority and urgency, and you receive that document also in the materials. So we have them ranked by priority and urgency. So.
Okay.
Sure.
So to kind of follow up on what the end of that conversation, is there, when I'm looking at when I was reviewing the applications, I had my own thoughts, and then I saw the recommendations made by the local records branch. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it is a little confusing because the applications do seem to stress access, but they're recommended to be fully. So I'm a little confused to what Wayne was saying. I'm a little confused about how the applications are reflecting access, but they're still being recommended to be accepted. It does feel a bit confusing.
Can I jump in one thing, Nicole?
Sure.
Sure. I think part of it is that the local records branch we don't see it as an either or all of the time. Access doesn't mean no preservation. Preservation doesn't mean no access. So when we see the applications, we're looking primarily at the records themselves. And if there is a preservation access that we notice, and we try to work with the agencies to understand that, that's what we're trying to push forward for them. So it's definitely, we don't see it as a conflict between them. We're trying to kind of work them in together to fit the needs.
If I can say something, I'm a county clerk, and I think when you provide the digital access, you are, in a sense, preserving records because you have less hands on those records and less wear and tear. So in a loose sense, I guess, there is a certain sense of preservation when a person can access the record online, print it online, and that book remains on a shelf untouched and not bothered. So there is a small sense of, in my opinion, of preserving the record by shifting people to this digital access and not having to access the records, the books for what they need, especially copies, because it's really hard on some of our older books with the binding and things like that. So that was just kind of my perspective on that from a clerk standpoint.
And we agree and we understand that, but we also stress the preservation standard in the Commonwealth is security microfilm. And that's where we're going to lean first. Depending on the agency, we have quite a few of those historical and permanent records, security microfilm. And as Becca mentioned, especially with some of these, microfilm would have been created years ago. There might not have been a digital component or a scanning part of it. They created microfilm from the book or the paper record. Now everything is going digital. So we are seeing that trend toward digitization, and we are within KDLA trying to make sure we have enough space, because for each digitization, scanning, or microfilming project, we get all digital images. So they come here. Microfilm goes in the vault, the digital images go onto a server. So we are fully aware and know that this trend is coming. And as long as the preservation standard is security microfilm in the Commonwealth, that's what we're going to push. At some point, that's going to change. When that will, we don't know, but we know that there's a move toward that nationally. But for right now, we will push microfilm where microfilm has been created and they want a digital image. We will look to see if there is microfilm created, and if not, we will allow, say the review committee is going to review the application. They will probably approve digitizing these records, but at some point we will need you to go back and get them security microfilm. Because if not, and a disaster happens, then we cannot recreate the records as originally created, when they were first done. So that's where, that's the push of the branch. That's our main focus, and that's what we're trying to do with these grants. So it's not that we don't want to award a digitization or a scanning grant. It's just, it's not a higher priority as security microfilm or preservation, rebinding, something else like that. Make a little bit better sense?
And I just have one question.
Sure.
Sorry. You mentioned that the digital images from the county clerk's office, they go to KDLA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Every local agency. So if it's a sheriff's department, public library, any applicant, if it's a digital component or a scanning component, microfilming, we get all digital images.
Okay.
All of them.
So they don't keep them at all though.
Now, they can write into their grant that they would receive a copy.
A copy.
That's
Okay.
between the vendor and the applicant or the awardee.
So
But
the preservation of the digital images is really on the KDLA side, not the local records group side.
that's a little bit different.
Okay.
So when it comes to KDLA, it's part of the collection. We have it, it's
Right.
there. We're not saying we own it, but it's part of the collection. We have it and we set it aside. A short history lesson, and I'm sorry, we're cutting into time. With the security microfilming, what we used to do was get diazo copies. So diazo copies would go to the research room for anybody, the public, to come in and review what records had been security microfilm for a particular project. We no longer do that. Now we get the digital images. So we have to look at the record to see if it's something that can go in the research room that the clerks have not, or another office has not restricted from public view. We have to do that. So right now, the digital images as they're coming in, they're just sitting, and we're trying to work on getting them down to the research room. So it's a little bit different. KDLA does one thing with them, the local office or the clerk or the city clerk, they do something else. They could probably speak to more of what they do with those, but I know what we do here at KDLA.
Thank you.
For the Fulton County Clerk, do I have a motion to recommend funding? Or do we need to revisit it quickly?
I'll move.
And a
I'll
second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and we will look at scores. We will start at the top again from my screen. Mr. Lursa,
19.
19. Ms. Schumacher,
25.
Ms. Thomas,
21.5.
and Mr. Wayne.
26.
We will move on now to the Jefferson County Clerk and Ms. Beth Williams.
Hello again. I did not actually introduce myself like Becca, so I am the North Central Regional Administrator. All right, the Jefferson County Clerk is applying for a grant for equipment. They are requesting funds to purchase equipment to scan and digitize 442 deed books with date ranges between 1978 and 1984, and 512 mortgage books with date ranges between 1984 and 1988. Again, they're like the previous, like Fulton, these were security microfilms prior to being digitized. They have received 15 grant awards in the past for security microfilm of their historical and permanent records. They have used grant funds to purchase storage equipment, roller shelving units, and other equipment, microfilm reader, printer, and scanners, and to purchase 5 imaging index systems. The most recent grant that was awarded was in 2020 for equipment, microfilm scanners. The clerk is working to ensure records are accessible and preserved through scanning the records in the office. So section 1 of the application is for a desktop document scanner. And then section 2 is also an equipment grant for a computer monitor, keyboard, mouse. Again, for deed books, mortgage books. And they did not consult with me, their regional administrator, but they did talk to Nicole, the local records branch manager, about their application. And the local records branch recommends full funding of this project. So if anyone has any questions.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So I noticed in their application that they do not have 3 bids for this. Is there a reason why?
If an applicant uses a state contract
Uh-huh.
or other contract, that's acceptable as the only bid. You don't have to
Okay.
have 3 bids.
I did not know that. Thank you, Nicole.
Sure, state contract. So one of them is through the University of Kentucky and the other is through Louisville Metro.
Okay, thank you.
And also to point out, the records that they intend to scan once they receive the equipment, they have not been security microfilmed, and we will be working with them to, talk to them to say, please apply at a later date to get these records security microfilmed. You're fine. Do you all have any, I'm sorry, Beth, did you have?
No, I was like, I'm getting my applications messed up. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
Strong on that one.
Any additional questions at all about this one?
Yes.
Ma'am.
A question about the equipment. Is there any concern about the quality of the equipment? Is it, like they're not really explaining why they've chosen the equipment that they've chosen, and they're not necessarily providing all the specifications? Like, should that be a concern? I don't know.
In general, Beth, I saw you were going to respond. I'll let you respond.
Oh, thanks. Well, I will say we have had a lot of questions about scanning equipment. And KDLA does have an electronic records branch. And they do have some guidance on that, which we have been sharing with our applicants or any of our customers, quite frankly, that have requested information about scanning equipment.
For really, really technical things, we send them straight to the electronic records branch. There are we have guidance everywhere. But for the really technical questions, we send them to the electronic records branch. Plus, there are standards in the equipment. Images have to be scanned, I believe at 600 DPI. So we have a microfilming and digital imaging guide or procedural guide that has all of that information listed in there, and that is something that we provide to local offices, and it's on the website as well. So when we are contacted and asked about scanning, what should it be done at? We want to go with this vendor, even if it is non-grant. And I apologize to everyone else because Ms. Thomas is new. We also do non-grant security microfilming. It is not grant related, but within that, KDLA also has requirements. So we do the title targets for that. So within that, we will get questions. Within that activity, we will get questions about what is best to do. So we work closely with the electronic records branch. And then if we have questions about the types of equipment, most of the county clerks, and I don't mean to speak for you all, but most of them have vendors that they work with that maintain their records electronically. They also have standards that, you know, they would adhere to, or they would work with their vendors to know what those standards are. The vendors will know what the microfilming or digitizing standards are because that's something that they do with KDLA and interact with KDLA a lot and have been for years. Do I have a motion to approve funding for the Jefferson County Clerk at $2,539.75?
I'll make that motion.
And
I'll second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion's carried, and we will go with scores. Mr. Jim, I'll give you last name of rest. Oh, you froze? We'll come back. Ms. Schumacher.
23.
Okay. Ms. Thomas.
19.
19. Okay, Mr. Jim, we lost you there for a second.
25.
25. Okay. Ms. Patterson. Oh, apologies. And Mr. Wayne.
17.5.
17.5. Thank you. And next we will move on to Metcalfe County Clerk, and it is in the South Central region, and Becca did this one.
All right, so this one is for the Metcalfe County Clerk, like Nicole said. They are requesting funds to security microfilm some records. They're looking to security microfilm deed books, mortgage books, oil and gas books, will books, commissioner deed books, miscellaneous books, marriage books, articles of incorporation, county order books, and fiscal court order books. The county clerk's office has received 16 grant awards in the past to security microfilm, to purchase records, storage equipment for records preservation. They do have some canvas covers and rebinding projects that have been done, and to purchase an automated indexing system hardware. And then also they had some salary grants to back index some permanent records. Their most recent grant was in fiscal year 2018 to scan, index, and link their marriage and deed books. So during a review of the application, the local records branch noted that the proposed project is going to create a gap in the security microfilm for these specific series. Those are listed in that recommendation. There is going to be a small gap, and we recommend, and we will recommend to the applicant that they work with the RA to fill in that gap at a later date. Just something that we noted, and that we'll work with them to fill that in. So again, they're looking to create security microfilm, and they will be creating the microfilm from digital images that they already have. So the local records branch is recommending full funding of the project at $8,634.38. Any questions?
Okay, hearing none. Can I have a motion to recommend funding?
So move.
And a second?
I will.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no. Any opposed? Thank you. And then scores, Mr. Jim.
24.
24. Ms. Schumacher,
25.
25. Ms. Thomas,
23.
23, and Mr. Wayne,
24.
24. Thank you. And we shall move right along to Pendleton County Clerk, and we have Ms. Beth.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting there. All right, Pendleton County Clerk. Pendleton County Clerk requested funds to digitize, index, upload, and marry deed books with date ranges between 1962 and 2008, mortgage books with date ranges between 1960 and 2008, will books from 1799 through 1996, and marriage books with date ranges between 1984 and 2004. The Pendleton County Clerk's Office has received 13 grant awards in the past to security microfilm, historical and permanent records to purchase storage equipment, for records preservation, and for other equipment. They also received awards to reproduce records that were lost in the March 1997 flood. The most recent grant was awarded in 2018 for security microfilming. So for section 1, these records have been previously microfilmed, but the digital images were not created as part of that project based on the age of the project. So they were microfilmed before digital images were being made. So section 1 includes digitizing the deed books, mortgage books, will books, and marriage books. And then section 2 is to index and marry the deed books. Section 3, the mortgage books, index and marry again. Section 4, index and marry the will books and marriage books. The applicant did consult with me, their regional administrator, after completing a draft application and receiving their bids. The local records branch recommends partial funding of the proposed project. We recommend denying sections 2 through 4 because index and marry are actually two separate functions which need to be bid separately as separate tasks, and they were bid together. We do recommend that they work with me, the regional administrator. I'll work with them to list those tasks separately and reapply. So we do recommend sections 2, 3, and 4 denied for $98,850, but we do recommend funding section 1, the digitization of the records that were previously microfilmed, for a total of $30,608. And are there any questions?
I do.
Okay.
So I was reading Rita's application for this, and she had written in the sections, it read index and marry. And then she specified those tasks. And then when I come down and it said, did you work with your RA when completing this? She wrote that she sent a copy of the application for review. She made changes based on feedback, and that this application is a follow-up to a denied grant. So I guess my question is, if she submitted this draft version that said index and marry, and this is the second time she's applied, why is this continuing to happen for her? I'm thinking when she did the draft, why wasn't something said, hey, you need to separate these tasks, we need to get separate bids? And I don't know why her grant application was denied the first time, but I mean, I can see where this could be frustrating. So I'm trying to understand what's happening. There seems to be a disconnect.
Well, we did actually. I worked with her and Nicole did as well. And actually, I believe Nicole sent her a very broken down email listing every issue with the original application. And then when she resubmitted the second draft and there were still concerns, I did reach out to her again. Ultimately, we can't force anyone to change their application. So we did work with her, and I will absolutely continue to work with her because ultimately we want the records to be preserved. So I can't really answer why she didn't correct it, but we did reach out to her and we will continue to do so.
Well, that's good to know, though, that there was an exchange where you tried to reach her and talk to her about that. That was my concern.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. We emailed her multiple times and actually called her as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Also want to talk about timelines. We currently, there's a 2-month window. Most of the time, applicants will go ahead, do the application, send it out and get their bids back. They send us the draft. By the time we get it, we're 2 weeks out from the deadline. There's not much we can do, but we do tell them what they might need to correct or fix. But if there's something in the invitation for bid proposal attachment, which is the part that specifies what records are going to be worked on and what you want done with those records. If there's an issue with that and it's already been bid out, there is literally nothing we can do because there's not enough time for them to rebid it. There's a 7-day window. If they put it on the website, if they put it somewhere and get more bids, or if they contact us and we say, do this, do that, do this, do that, then they're fine. Most of the time we run out of time. We just run out of time because they don't get started early enough. So that was one of the issues with that. If there is an unwillingness, and I'm not saying this is the case with this particular applicant, I would have to go back because we keep all the documentation, every email. We can give you a timeline of when we were contacted first, everything that was said. But what it ends, if there's reluctance there, we at some point we just have to say, okay, send it in, and we present it to you, meaning the committee, and you bring up any questions that you have, and then we'll tell you what we did do and what we didn't do. But we did work extensively with the Pendleton County Clerk. And
Well, I appreciate you telling me that, Nicole. I guess I was just concerned when she said that this is she is following up from a previously denied grant. So I felt like maybe she had the time and opportunity to correct this, and yet it's still not what it needs to be. So that's where my concern was.
So just to follow on that question, follow up quickly. What's the possibility of getting that time frame extended? Those clerks have a lot of stuff to do. I know last year was really, really tough. Can't we make that window wider?
we have looked at it. We have switched it up. We're stuck. The commission meets every quarter. You back out 1 week from the commission, you have the advisory. You back out about 2 weeks from that, you have the advisory to the general schedule. We're working on a timeline that's tight. We only have a certain amount of time within that 6 months to get it done. We also have to allow time for us to review the applications, get the recommendations done, get all the materials uploaded and to you all so that you have them at least 3 weeks, which is really not enough time. If you end up with 20 to 40, maybe even 50 applications, 3 weeks is not enough time for you to spend to go through it. If we give more time at the beginning, and this is not an indictment, it's just fact, everyone still waits until the last 3 weeks or the last month to contact us. They've either already bid it out, they've come back and this is what they have, and they want us to look at it. And at that point, we can advise, but we can't fix. We can't go in and fix it.
Okay.
We have to say, this is what we would rather everyone contact us at the outset. This is what we're wanting to do. This is it. And we'll look at the records. We'll tell you what you need to do as far as getting them on that attachment so that they can be bid by section, and then send it out. You come back. If you don't have enough bids, you contact us. We say, now you solicit, go out and get what you need. But we can't, everybody's busy. We can't,
Sure.
we just
Okay.
need everybody to start earlier. that's pretty much it. And I know that all the local offices are busy, and I'm trying not to single out one particular customer group at all. I know all of them are busy, but this is the window. And the beautiful thing, and maybe the worst thing about local records program grants, is they don't end.
Yeah.
If you miss one window, you get to pick right back up. As soon as the decisions are made at the commission, there's barely 3 weeks and then the next cycle opens. So we're right back at it again.
Okay.
So I know that it's frustrating. I know there's a lot of, I'm gonna use that word again, a lot of frustration with a lot of different parties regarding the grant program. We're trying and it's gonna get better the more folks understand the program, are educated of the program, and more they understand the records and what we're trying to do with the records, and that KDLA's focus or lens is not the same as theirs. We have a particular mission and mandate. We are here to support records management activities that might not be able to be funded on the local level. And that's it. We make no decisions about what the other offices do. None at all. We're just trying to implement this program and see that the records are maintained per the retention schedule and they are preserved. So in the event of any disaster, they can be recreated. That's like short answer, recycled answer, the only answer that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Pendleton. Any additional questions with Pendleton at all? Because it is the applications, when you're looking at them the first time and you're lining it up with the score sheet, the rubric, it can be a bit cumbersome when you're trying to find where the information is to answer, to score that. And we did I call it a lazy crosswalk. This is where you can find the answers. So any other questions at all about Pendleton, because we know, and there's probably one other that's coming up that's going to be just as intensive. Okay, may I have a motion to approve, recommend funding for the Pendleton County Clerk
So
application?
move.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good deal. Motion is carried. And for scoring, Mr. Jim,
20.
20. Miss Stephanie,
24,
Miss Dina,
26. 26.
okay, and Mr. Wayne,
22.
22. Thank you. We are moving on to the Pulaski County Clerk, and we are back to Beth. And this Pulaski County Clerk is in the South Central region.
Okay, so this is a very similar situation as Pendleton. So that's good that they're right one after another. The Pulaski County Clerk requested funds to scan, index, upload, marry their deed books, will books, mortgage books, lease books, encumbrance books, POA books, settlement books, fiscal court minute books, fiscal court order books, and apartment deed books with date ranges between 1962 and 1973. The Pulaski County Clerk's Office has received 10 grant awards in the past for security microfilming of historical and permanent records. They've received grant funds to purchase record storage equipment for records preservation and to purchase a partial imaging and indexing system upgrade. The most recent grant was awarded in fiscal year 2018 for scanning, digitization, and security microfilm. Some of their records are security microfilmed that they're requesting to digitize and some are not. And again, we will work with them to get everything security microfilmed. Section 1 is scanning. Again, I'm not going to reread all of them, but all of the records that we mentioned. Section 2 is the uploading. Section 3 is index and marry. And section 4 is index and marry the existing digital images. They did consult with the regional administrator prior to their application submission. And the local records branch recommends partial funding of the proposed project. We recommend denying sections 3 and 4, index and marry, once again, because they are two different functions that need to be separated and bid as separate tasks. And so without those sections, the upload cannot be completed. So we recommend that they work with the regional administrator to identify the project specifications and scopes and reapply in the next opportunity, the next grant application period. So the total funds recommended for denial, which is sections 2, 3, and 4, upload, and then the 2 index and marry sections, is $34,634.20. But we do recommend that section 1, the scanning, is funded for $41,800. And are there any questions?
I have one question, and I probably should have asked this earlier. Is there any actual difference between scan and digitize?
Thank you, Becca.
I was gonna say, that's a Becca question.
Sorry, I don't know if you saw me really perk up, but yes, this is something that we bat around a lot. I would say at a technical level, yes. At a functional level, when we're doing applications, it gets a little less clear. From what we try to do, scanning is simply the putting it in the scanner and creating a digital image. The digitizing we see is kind of that scanning and indexing. So it gets a little, so short answer is that we use them kind of interchangeably because that's just how the agencies use them interchangeably, and we try to see how they're using it in that capacity. Yeah, I've gone on some very long rants at the branch about semantics of these, but for the purposes of the applications, we kind of look at them interchangeably. A lot of times you'll see a digitizing and an indexing. So we're just looking at how they're being used by the agencies.
Okay, the actions are the same. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Essentially, what they're saying they're going to do is digitize this material, but in a very, when they say they're going to scan it, in a very, like, for lack of a better term, layperson terms.
Yes.
You know, yeah, okay. Just making sure.
Yep. No, that's a great question. Yes.
I knew Becca would be able to explain better than
You see
I
my
can.
head pop up. I was like, oh, this is me.
Immediately.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve the Pulaski County Clerk funding request, $41,800?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. And a second. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried, and we will go with scores, and we are back to Mr. Jim.
23.
23, and Ms. Stephanie.
24.
24, and Ms. Dina.
25.
25, and Mr. Wayne.
24.
24. Thank you. And next on the agenda is the Todd County Clerk, and we are back to Rebecca.
All right. So the Todd County Clerk is requesting $17,007 to purchase and install roller shelving in their records room. The shelves are going to house their permanent vital records, including deed books, election commission records, notary public bond books, and their oil and gas lease books. They've previously received 10 grant awards to scan, index, and security microfilm records, to do some preservation like recreation and canvas covers, to purchase other storage equipment, and to purchase an electronic imaging system and upgrade. Their most recent grant was awarded in fiscal year 2020 for a plat cabinet to properly store their plats. These books that they are looking to purchase the shelving for are currently stored on a small section of shelves within the records room, which has run out of space. The shelving is going to allow for additional books and for the series to be stored together. This clerk is in a position where they have a great sized room for their records. They just don't have the shelving in the room. So they've got the space, they just need something to store the records on. So they are requesting the shelving that's listed in here. They did consult with me and the local records branch to do this, and we are recommending full funding of the project in the total of $17,700. Are there any questions?
None? Do I have a motion to recommend funding for the Todd County Clerk at $17,007?
I will.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we are now to the Todd County Fiscal Court, and we are with Rebecca again. Oh, please forgive scores. I got a little happy.
25.
Miss Stephanie,
25.
Miss Dina,
25.
okay, Mr. Wayne. You're muted. We couldn't hear you.
You've hit the jackpot, 25.
25. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Please forgive my oversight. And now we can move on to the Todd County Fiscal Court, and we are back to Rebecca again.
Okay, so we have the Todd County Fiscal Court. They are requesting they requested $13,600 for codification of over 280 ordinances. The fiscal court has not previously received any funding through the local records grant programs. They have over 280 ordinances containing over 900 pages. Currently, these are organized loosely in their binders. So the section 1 has a list of the ordinances that they're looking for. So they're looking for ordinances dated from roughly 1985 through 2021. And the local records branch is recommending full funding of the project in the amount of $12,100. Are there any questions?
Hearing none. May I have a motion to approve funding?
So move.
Okay, and a second.
I'll do a second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Scores, Mr. June,
24.
Ms. Stephanie,
23.
Ms. Dina,
25.
and Mr. Wayne.
20. You know, this is an example. I think that some areas they just didn't provide a lot of detail. I'm sure that their score would have been higher, but I think, you know, sometimes the applicants just don't include enough detail for us to give them a higher score.
I understand. And as you could see from, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was codification grants seem to be that way. They're just, it would be nice to have more information, but I don't know what information they could provide. They need these codified. What ones are they? Codification are kind of their own category, I guess. They're just but I definitely see that point for sure.
Yeah, and I guess that some of the things just don't apply a lot, like the security and protection of records. And I'm sure the applicant doesn't see the necessity of putting a lot of detail in. But anyway, that's I think it makes it a little bit more difficult to score them higher.
Understood. I have a recommendation, a motion to recommend funding. Apology. I thought we were fiscal quarter. Did we move past that? We're past that. That's scores. We got scores. Okay, please forgive. When you said that, my brain is already working on how we can affect the rubric. So I apologize. I went somewhere and I was still there. Because now my brain is clicking on because there's another grant category that probably could fall into the same way, and that would be salary grant. We could even do that with the equipment grant as well. If we did not, what we do is we ask them to specify the records that they're going to be working on, especially with the equipment grant and the salary grant. Application is the same way, so please forgive. All right, Trigg County Clerk, I'm back.
All
And that
right.
is also Becca.
It's me again. All right, so the Trigg County Clerk has requested $38,573 to scan records, index records, and security records. So they're requesting grant funds to scan miscellaneous books, will books, and marriage books with date ranges between 1868 and 1984, to scan and index miscellaneous books, will books, and marriage books with date ranges between 1820 and 1961, and to create security microfilm for records books, including marriage books and will books and miscellaneous books. So the Trigg County Clerk's Office has previously received 13 grant awards to security microfilm, to purchase storage equipment, records preservation tasks, electronic record systems, and also to digitize, index, scan, digitize, index, and upload records into the current imaging system software. Their most recent grant was in fiscal year 2020 for an indexing system upgrade. So the Trigg County Clerk's Office is located in a former bank building, and it has 2 great vaults, which do give them a lot of security and access. Over the years, Trigg County has used its own funds as well as the local records program grant funds to scan and upload images for easier public access. The clerk's office uses their own time when available to scan and index records, but the process is slow as ever. I mean, it's slow because the offices are busy. They get to it when they can get to it. And they have worked with their current vendor to upload to the imaging system when it's possible. The clerk's office regularly performs record cleanouts and very regularly submits destruction certificates to KDLA. This office has a very robust records management program. They're using it and it is working well. So there are 6 sections as lined out in here to scan, scan and index, and then also to scan. And then to microfilm is that section 7. We did talk about this prior to their sending out the invitation for bid. So the local records branch is recommending partial funding of this project. So we're recommending denial of sections 1 through section 6. The sections get a little wonky, which is why we're getting it. So after the invitation for bid and the invitation for bid proposal attachments were sent to the vendors, the project scope and sections were reorganized from that original one that they had sent. So the vendor bids as they came in were not comparable, and they were not, there were several components that were not in that original scope. So we're recommending that the applicant work with the local records branch to reapply using their original project specifications and that original scope as it was, I say it again, that originally sent out. And then we're recommending denial in the total of $37,328, and then recommending funding for the security microfilm portion, which totals $1,463. So are there any questions?
I do. Could you explain, I guess maybe in a little more detail for me, what happened when you said that these, after the invitation for bid was sent out and it was reorganized? I'm not quite following what happened.
That's totally understandable. Probably going to give you more than you would ever want to know. So the way, like I said, this office has a records management program that they're using. So they have it and it's set up, and they are doing stuff in the office. So they have these books in various, they're in various processes. Some have been scanned, some have been scanned and indexed, some have been uploaded. So they were looking to get some grant funds to kind of fill in those blanks. So they had their original scope, had it as they have it, they're doing it in office. So they sent that out. Totally workable. It had a lot of sections, but it was as it's done in the office, it worked. At some point, there was discussions and that was rearranged to kind of combine some sections to kind of put, like if you had one set of books that needed to be scanned and indexed and another, two different series having the same task, where the original scope may have had them in two different sections, they were then combined. But that led vendor bids to not be comparable. Some were bidding on different sections with different names, or there were some additional tasks in there too. It all just became very convoluted and it was not as it was originally scoped. The project as originally scoped is great. Very strongly going to recommend that they reapply for that. Did that kind of answer?
It did. I just,
Okay.
do you know why that happened? I mean, why would she have done that after sending out the invitations for bid? Do you know? Have you talked to her?
No, once we're in the application period, we're kind of, once it's sent in until the awards are made,
Okay.
it's done. So I don't have a clear, definitive answer of why that was done.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Because this one is a little intricate.
So I have a question. It kind of speaks to what you guys were just talking about. And forgive my ignorance. I do work in the state government, but we don't at KHS, we don't have to, I often don't have to do the bid processing. So I'm not as familiar with this bid process. Is that typical? Is this process typical for the county clerks or fiscal courts or whatever? Like, so they understand that they can't change the scope of the project, what they do once they send the bid out, because then it no longer matches the bid. Like, they understand that process or no?
I will say that I've never seen this yet. I can't speak to that, but this is the first time that this has come up for projects that I've worked on.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't know if they're used to the bid process, and so they would know that you can't change the scope of the project once you send out the bid. So I was just curious.
Speaking as a clerk, I can probably say that we're not familiar with the bid processes. And we're relying on our vendors and we're relying on the regional administrators to help us out.
You can't see my mouth underneath the mask, but it's open because I'm getting ready to respond and I'm trying to choose my words carefully. We, the RAs in the branch, we cannot advise per se on the bid process. This has been a topic of discussion that I've had with the commissioner several times. We know the minimum for the program. That's one of the reasons why we tell local offices and the clerks to follow local practice. Consult with your legal counsel and your procurement folks on how to go through your bid process for your locality. There are things that we require for program grants, 3 bids, regardless. The exception is codification because there are 2 vendors. And the reason that there are 2 vendors, there are more, is that the vendors have to be, the attorneys have to be licensed within the Commonwealth and know Kentucky law. So for codification, there's 2 vendors. For some of the other categories, preservation, conservation, there may be 2 vendors and that's acceptable, but you have to have 3 bids per the guidelines and you have to advertise. That's the extent of it as far as the RAs are concerned. The rest of it, you know, when anything comes up, when we first had the question about the contract, using state contract, I had to go and ask the question initially. And that's when I found out that yes, the state contract could be used. And that's been several cycles ago. So we don't current staff do not advise on the bid process. What we do is we help you or help the applicants with the specifications, meaning what records you need preserved or what you want done with them, digitized, scanned, equipment. We will help you with that part. Once you get it divided into sections, or once the applicant gets it divided into sections, and it's on the invitation for bid proposal attachment, you send the proposal, you send the attachment out, you advertise it. The bids that come back should line up exactly with what's on that attachment. So if there are 7 sections, you're going to have 7 sections on that bid. And each of that is going to be broken down by price, so that if of some of the things that you all have identified and you ask questions about come up in future applications, you can know, okay, well, we can't do this part because of whatever reason, but we can make a partial award. That's one of the reasons why we want and we need, or absolutely has to happen, the attachment in sections so that we can see exactly what's being done or what it is. And it's spelled out what the applicant wants to do, because often we find that the project summary in the application doesn't match the attachment, or they say what they want done in the summary, but it's not on the attachment. And then therefore, when the bids come in, they don't match. So it's a little long-winded, long story long. It's a little bit precarious. It just depends, and we sort it out the best way, but that's about the best thing that I can say regarding that. Probably not helpful, but maybe a little bit.
Can I say one final thing about this specific one? The project is original, we worked on it and it is solid. I will again be recommending strongly that that original project come back, and you'll see it again the next cycle. As we had created those project specifications, they were very solid.
We need to do scores too. We done with two. Find out. All right, so need a motion to recommend funding for the Tree County Clerk at $1,400.63 for security and microfilming. Is there a motion to approve funding?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you so very much. And we are to scores. Mr. Jim,
21.
21, Miss Stephanie,
24.
24, Miss Dina,
26.
Mr. Wayne,
24.
24. Okay, we have, and I think we might not have to, we have a spreadsheet. We've been entering your scores as we've been going along. It's attached to another page that automatically tallies the applications. We were going to take a 10-minute break. We can do that. We've been on the horn about almost an hour and a half. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll come back. We will read off the scores to you, and then we will be done.
Let's see, Nicole, you do want our score sheets mailed to you, is that correct?
That will be just fine. Those of you that want to email, that'll be fine. And those that want to send regular mail, I'll take them any way you would get them to me. And plus, they've been recorded, so if we get them, great. If not, they will go in the file. We'll keep it in the archive, and we have the scores recorded here, and we will let you know what they are. And we will be back at 10:35, maybe a little bit sooner. So it's 10:24 now. We'll be back in exactly 10 minutes. We'll tally your score.
But, you know, this is, I mean. This is where they get a lot of grants. The rules are. You know, first bring everybody, you know, Did you say that? No, I didn't say that right up, but I asked, well, it did reject all the reject all the jets and things, no. And what's the one? And who- why? Why? Why should we say? Oh, it's not. Why should we get all this? There's no problem. You don't like her. So, did anybody agree with you when you said that? Anybody agree with you? Who's on this? It's like, you don't want to give the money away to people who need it? Yeah. Well, what's the reason? It's all black and white. You done with this box?
And apologies for coming back a few minutes late. The scores have been tallied, and they are as follows. Todd County Clerk, equipment grant, $17,007, score of 26. Okay. Metcalf County Clerk, security microfilming, $8,634.38, score 25. Pulaski County Clerk, scanning, 41,800, score 25. Fulton County Clerk, digitization, indexing, and uploading, funds recommended 71,214.80, score 24. Pendleton County Clerk, digitization, funds recommended 30,608, score of 24. Todd County Fiscal Court, codification, funds recommended 12,100, score of 24. Trigg County Clerk, security microfilming, funds recommended $1,400.63, score of 24. Anderson County Clerk, codification, Anderson County Fiscal Court, codification, amount awarded, 12,100, score of 24. Trigg County Clerk, security microfilming, funds recommended $1,400.63, score 24. Anderson County Fiscal Court, am I doubling up? I'm losing my place. Amount awarded $7,000, score of 23. Jefferson County Clerk, equipment, amount award $2,539.75, score of 22. The scores, the FY22 cycle 2 applications were ranked as you just heard, and the total amount of recommended for approval is $192,304.56. Do I have a motion to recommend approval of this funding amount to be presented to the State Libraries, Archives, and Records Commission in December for fiscal year 22, cycle 2, $192,304.56. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that.
And a second. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Thank you. This concludes the scoring part. Next on the agenda is other business. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to talk about or discuss? Any recommendations, critiques, successes, anything that you would like to share? And then after that, we will adjourn. Does anybody have anything? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. This is meeting number 2 that we have had in succession, where we have had a quorum. Before the last meeting, I think we went about 4 cycles without one. So it is appreciated. Thank you for sending your scores in advance. That is appreciated as well. As you see, it's very fluid. If you need to change your scoring, you can. If you have any questions that you want to send in advance, you can. We want to make this process as easy as possible. So any questions in the meantime, please send them our way. We will do our very best. And we will see you at the next review committee meeting, and I promise you, it will roll up sooner than you think it will. You think it's not gonna be, okay, we're done. No, we're already planning for the next cycle. We have a tentative timeline up. We're about ready to go on January 5th. We're ready to go on January 5th. So you heard it here first. I think second, I've told only one other person, local office. So January 5th, we'll be back up, and around, let's see, March, April, in May, we'll be back together again. So thank you so very much for your time. We appreciate all of you. If you need anything in the meantime, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
so
good
much,
day,
everybody.
week. Stay warm.